Hello, party people. We are back again. Today we are talking about Mother. Yes, she is with us. She is among us. FKA Twigs. You know, is this a chorus or arca tutorial? Yeah, sort of. But let's not forget, was it Nico Jar said on one of FKA Twig's albums where he was just like, I mean, she just made the whole thing on like the DSi Tempest? Maybe I might be wrong about this. Crazy. Those things are apparently very hard to use. I've never used one, but that's what I've heard. Anyway, there is actually one thing that I think really unites a lot of these sounds we're going to talk about, which you might not be expecting, and it's the arpeggiator. Let's dive straight into it. Okay, so we are going to start with some drums. You probably will immediately recognize this. So these are just some 909 samples. I know people may ask, I am really not doing anything crazy here. So we need some vocals. I'm going to pull up something from a song I was working on. And if you haven't heard my new song, Untouched with Carlos Antonio, we're actually going to use some of the demo vocals from this. You'll never leave me so. But what we really need to be doing is getting some slices of this. So I'm going to do Command-Shift-T to create a new MIDI track, and then we are just going to drag this vocal in there and then get that out of the way. Okay, now down here, we are going to go to our beloved slice mode, right? And now if we hit M to turn on my keyboard, so today I'm just going to be mostly using my keyboard, right? We get all these nice slices. That's sounding so good already. I always like when I'm doing these kind of vocal chop things to just throw like an OTT on here. It just, that extreme compression kind of makes it a bit more into like an instrument, you know, because things are sort of leveled out. You can kind of guess where we're going. We're throwing on an arpeggiator. Here we go. And now, I mean, go crazy with it. Let's bring this up to 16th. I don't think this will really make a difference, but I'll just put the gate at 100. Okay, let's do it. And honestly, there you go. YouTube video over. I mean, come on. That sounds so good to me. I mean, but let's get into how we can begin to make this a little bit more interesting. So if you want to go full lazy mode, you can put in a MIDI clip. Again, I'm selecting and hitting Command-Shift-M. And then I'm going to go down here, click C3 and hit legato to make one long note. And then we can add a MIDI random device. And I'm going to put that in between the arpeggiator and the simpler. That's important. Turn up the chance all the way. Turn up the choices all the way. Right? And there we go. So that's a bit more random and crazy. And then remember, you can always change this to gate mode. And then the gate here in the arpeggiator will actually like matter a bit more. So yeah, this is awesome. Oh yeah, and I should mention, this confuses people sometimes. I put this note at C3. When you're in slice mode for simpler, the first slice is at C1. Right, so now we're kind of playing from the beginning. So that's just good to know if you want to be really playing all the slices or be in a certain area. If you want to go more than 24 choices, I never really understand how this thing down here works, but I think if you change the interval to 2, that will kind of like double the amount of slices. I don't know. I've read the manual so many times. It just never makes sense to me. There you go. So that is kind of like method 1. That is sort of like the lowest effort. It doesn't quite sound like Drums of Death, obviously. What we can do is we can move the random to before the arpeggiator. And so now it's only going to trigger a new slice every time we put in a new note. So we can begin to have a little bit of control over when things change, even though they're still random. Check this out. So that for me gets pretty close to like the actual kind of Drums of Death sort of sound. Okay, so let's talk about a couple more ways of spicing this up, right? So one is to change the arpeggiation rate, right? So if I'm going in here, And again, you can switch this to MS down here, and then you can get stuff that's a little off the grid. But I'm going to go back to this. And again, you can, if you want, begin to automate this. So I will go down here, click our rate, and then kind of what I was going for at the end is a bit more kind of just making this up to 30-second notes or something, right? So maybe we can bring this down a little bit. You could automate the gate as well. So one last little thing for this is to remember that we also can go to this controls section back here. There's a lot of fun stuff here. If you really want to get wild with it, you can start messing with the pitch envelope. That's always kind of fun. A little bit more into that PC music sort of territory. But what I really like here is obviously there's spread. If you just want to make stuff a little wider, that's great. But there is this rand pan thing. So basically this means every time a note comes in, it's just going to randomly pan it. And again, hopefully I think this is coming through in stereo, right? So if you can hear that, you should hear it's kind of going all over the place. Okay, team. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I actually, in my upcoming album, I have a ton of like vocal chop kind of stuff that I do like that. So keep an eye out for my upcoming album. Working title Strawberry. We'll see if that changes. Okay, so I'm going to play the background for the next thing. Let's see if you can guess what era we're in. Kind of a really, really terrible sort of pendulum, not pendulum, or like LP1 kind of imitation. And I like this because so many people with Eusexua are like, oh, chorus, like, you know, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like some of this repetitive kind of thing that you see a lot in Eusexua, it's actually all over her other work. Let's get a clap. And I kind of gave it away. Think about a little bit of pendulum. So again, I'm going to bring that down in there. I'm going to add an arpeggiator. And once again, we are just going to do the same thing. Hit legato. Right. And you know, I might pitch this up a little bit. So I think you can guess where we're going here, which is just to begin automating the rate, and especially to do it at like uneven intervals, right? So we'll say like 12ths or something, right? Get it down to like sixths. Now, the other thing that's going on in Pendulum is we have some filter movement. So again, I want to talk about this because we have the capacity for that built into Simpler. So over here, right, we have our LFO section, right? And you can see filter. So this LFO, it's not as the most intuitively laid out LFO in Ableton history. This LFO can control this filter. Now, you may have messed with this and be like, okay, I turn the filter all the way up. Like, it sounds exactly the same. Why is that? It's because we have retrigger on. So this means that every time a new note comes in, we are starting from the same place in the LFO. So if you're doing something very quick like these hats, it never goes anywhere. So we are going to turn that off. And you still can't hear much, right? We need to actually turn the filter down. Right? And then I'm going to turn the rate of the LFO down a little bit. So once again, we'll also throw on a little bit of our random pan, right? And again, this isn't the craziest sound design thing ever, but I think it's a really, like, the rest of this rhythm is so simple, and this just brings things a little off kilter by having some of those weird time intervals. Then let's also talk about getting a little more wild with this. We can throw a kick in here. Yeah, maybe this one. Don't want it to be too loud. And again, I'll create a new clip and we'll hit legato. So we're going to add our arpeggiator. Right now, if we really want to get wild with this, we can click the MS button, right? And now we can go to this freeway, right? Start to get some of those glitchy sounds. So what's super fun to do with this always is to automate it. So I'm going to automate it going down. Oh, God. You know, I should use the Ableton thing, the new Ableton thing that I'm still trying to get better at using. There we go. That's how we do it. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have it start much higher. Right? So that's kind of another pendulum-y sound. Now, though, let's kind of start to get a little crazy with this, right? Let's do something fun. Let's do something fun. I want to go now to my actually favorite FKA Twigs project, M3LX. What's it called? Melissa? Yes. How would you sort of get some of those Melissa sounds, but a little bit of like a Poet Mystery spin? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my good old favorite metal sounds, right? So I have this whole thing of metal noises. I think these are all from Free Sounds. Love these. Use these a lot, actually. I'll use a lot of these metal sounds from Free Sounds in actually the song with Carlos Antonio. Let's go to C3 again. Hit legato. And again, sorry, I meant C1. And now we are going to add our arpeggiator. And we're going to go to slice mode. We are going to maybe just move this over so we're not getting that first. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I notice in Melissa there's a lot of these like kind of repeating sort of like very dark bass sounds. So we are going to take this metal and we are going to go to corpus and we are going to go to pipe and we are going to drop the tune. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to turn the dry wet up a little bit. I'm going to turn the LFO on and just turn it up a tiny bit just to get a little bit of width and movement. And then let's see if we want to move this at all. Yeah, maybe a little less decay. Let's check the radius. Yeah, so if you want something more subtle, you can drop the radius. I'm going to go a bit more extreme with it. So now I'm going to get some grain delay. Yes, we are using all of the greatest hits here. We're going to turn hit sync, drop this all the way, turn the feedback all the way up. Okay, it's starting to get a little crazy. We're going to bring down the frequency, bring up the spread. Amazing. And finally, because why not, let's get totally crazy with it. Amp on blues mode, just hit that to dual. I'm afraid this is going to like blow our ears out. Oh my God, that is sounding so good. Honestly, that's maybe even kind of a little bit of sad day vibes in there, if you know what I'm talking about. Now, if you want this to be not so crazy, we can add a little bit of filter just to make it a bit more usable. And you can see from these different slices, they give totally different characters. Messing with the spray is really going to let you kind of make it super tight and then really just blow it out. Oh, I love these sounds. Now, let's say you don't want to do bass, right? Let's also mess with the tune here. Let's go up with the tune. And now I'm going to turn the filter off. Getting into Sophie territory, of course. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the decay here. And you know, let's just get some reverb on. Maybe get the LFO really going. Okay, now we're getting some fun stuff. Oh my god, there's like bubble noises. Let's see what happens if we go to pitch and do like 0.3. I don't know, team. Amazing stuff. Again, sorry if that felt a little meandering, but that does give you a little bit of a sense of like how I might actually like go about like making a sound. And then again, I would say in terms of using this, as always, we would just go and resample like a bunch of messing around with this. If you ever want to resample while you're playing, you can hold Command click to arm both tracks, and then right, and then you can literally go down here and start moving some of this stuff around. Right, so you can do your whole kind of like jam session improvisation thing, and then you have all this fun stuff that you can go through and look for it. Well, guys, as always, a pleasure. As always, drop me a comment if you have questions or if something isn't working quite the way you wanted. Also, check out my new remix album on my Virgin Mystery side project. Very, very crazy remixes. I'll put a link below, and hopefully we'll be doing some production breakdowns of those songs very soon.